That's me. My wife gets to me with this one, and I say, okay, it's a real thing, I get that. That's me in some. I hate summer school. My Eastern European blessing. Polish, German, Irish blood. I do. Well, now I'm just trying to work in this. Yeah.
Everybody set? Joining me today are Lieutenant Governor John Husted, Director Kim Murnix of the Ohio Office of Budget and Management, Director Mary Mertz, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Dorothy Planda, the Ohio Department of Agriculture, Director Annette Chambers-Smith, the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, Director Kim Houck of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, Director Lydia Mihalik of the Ohio Department of Development, and Superintendent Jack Smith of the Ohio Fire Academy. A few minutes ago, I signed House Bill 687, the state's $3.5 billion capital budget that was passed on June 1. This budget is about creating jobs, growing our economy, and looking out for the future of Ohioans. Maybe to start with, put this in kind of some perspective, it is an unusual budget. It's a budget of total $3.5 billion. Of that $3.5 billion, 2.8 is bondable. The rest of the money is pretty much federal dollars and different flow streams of federal dollars. So what's bondable is 3.8. Capital bills, as we know, are passed every several years. The money is used for infrastructure and for long-term projects. Therefore, it is usually paid for over a long period of time by bonding and borrowing money. These structures generally have a longer life, and that's just why, of course, this is done. But this budget is an unusual budget. What's unusual about this budget is that out of the $2.8 billion that can be bonded, we intend to pay for part or possibly all of it with cash. We believe that this is the prudent thing to do. It's the wise thing to do. It's something that we can do and we should do. Legislature has authorized us to spend $1.5 billion of that in cash. We also have the option of going back to the legislature for permission to spend the rest in cash. It is very possible that we will do that, and it's possible, no decision has been made yet, but it's possible that this entire capital budget will be paid for in cash. If we pay cash for all of this, I am told by our budget team that it will save the taxpayers of the state of Ohio up to $1.6 billion in interest in the coming years. So this is a different budget. I'm sure that some historians among you will figure out if this has ever happened before. I'm not aware of it, but that doesn't mean it hasn't. But I'm not aware of any time when the state would have paid that much money in cash. This budget will provide funding for really many important projects, and it's a continuation of our efforts to invest in the people of Ohio, to invest in Ohio so that this remains a great place to live. A lot of this is about quality of life, and it also goes back to our goal that every Ohioan have the ability to live up to their God-given potential. A few highlights. It will pay for improvements in mental health care. We'll talk about this in a minute, but you will see that we continue our efforts to build a mental health system in this state that is the best in the country. This is a long-term project. We started it early when I became governor. We're going to continue to do that. This is just one more step along that road. It is something that we should have done before. Great efforts have been made, but we have a ways to go. But this will pay for improvements, which I'll talk about in a moment in regard to mental health care. It provides more independent living options for Ohioans with developmental disabilities. It improves our beautiful state parks, preserves them, It covers infrastructure projects to prepare for the construction of Intel. This budget will bring greater security to our schools. It will support construction and renovation at our K through 12 schools, our colleges, and our universities. It will protect our livestock industry. It will enhance security in our prisons, and it will build facilities for firefighting training. Let me start with mental health. The capital bill provides more than $92 million for mental health and addiction services across the state and in our communities. It includes support for renovations and improvements at our state behavioral health hospitals and funding for local supportive and recovery housing, mental health treatment facilities, and community program spaces. The funding will also support community resiliency projects for middle and high school youth. The projects that will benefit from this funding focus on treatment, recovery, risk reduction, improved quality of care, and enhancing partnerships in our communities. So the great bulk of this money goes right out into our communities to do the work that needs to be done. Again, it is part of Lori Chris's and my overall plan to improve mental health in the state and addiction services. The overall investment supports projects for communities and families throughout Ohio. An example would be the construction of the Providence House East Campus in Cleveland. This locally prioritized project is receiving $700,000 from the budget to help pay for construction, which will include a 20-bed crisis nursery and family resiliency center to support the health, the safety, and stability of the community's children and families. That's an example. Now let me turn to Ohioans with disabilities. In Ohio, we work hard to ensure that Ohioans with developmental disabilities have opportunities to live, work, learn, and pursue their own aspirations. To foster more independence and community engagement for Ohioans with developmental disabilities, the budget includes $25 million to fund the Community Capital Assistance Program. This program builds, buys, and renovates homes to create independent living options across the state of Ohio. Funding from the previous capital budget provided of a similar amount of money. I give examples of what it was used for. This money will be used primarily for the same things. The previous budget improved living options to more than 1,200 people with developmental disabilities throughout Ohio. In that previous budget, the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities worked with local partners and has authorized so far with that money the purchase of 62 homes, constructed 15 homes, and renovated 344 homes. This money that's in this budget will go towards similar projects that are local projects. Through this second investment, Ohio is recognizing the vital role housing provides in the success, the help, and the happiness for people with disabilities. Let me now turn to our state parks. We are making today a very unusual and historic investment in our state parks. We are blessed in this state with 75 and soon to be 76 state parks. They are free. People can go in there and enjoy them. If they camp, they pay something, but most people go in and use them for the day. We saw them used more and more during the pandemic. People have rediscovered them. This goes really to the quality of life, and they are really a true gem. This budget allocates $515 million, the largest such investment in Ohio history, to help us provide significant improvements in lodges, campgrounds, cabins, dams, trails, natural areas, in addition to continuing the historic preservation of the Muskingum River locks and dams. Now more than ever, we need to reinvest in our state's treasures. And our parks and our natural areas are part of our treasure and part of our inheritance that we want to pass on to others. In the past few years, Ohioans have rediscovered the joy of fishing, walking on trails in the wilderness, boating, camping. Ohio has incredible natural beauty, and our parks provide the outstanding experiences and opportunities to enjoy that natural beauty. Ohio citizens deserve the very best parks, and we want to also have some tourists come in, and we do that as well. We want to deliver these best parks. This money will also pay for the repair of park roads, build and repair parking lots, build and renovate nature centers, and on and on. We will also work to make our recently purchased Appalachian Hills more accessible for sportsmen. This is the old AEP property. We're building new cabins at the Jesse Owens State Park, which is contained in that area. And we are doing complete cabin renovations at 7 other state parks around the state. When Fran and I take our grandchildren to the state parks, we always make a stop at the nature centers. The naturalists are phenomenal. They do a great job. One of the things that the director is doing is renovating, redoing, I think, almost all the natural centers that we have in the state. These funds will also be used for safety-related projects, such as the repair of dams and bridges, and to fix our historic sites that lie in Ohio's parks. This budget will help us invest in wildlife research, conservation, and help us protect and improve some of our most important forests and natural areas, including Blackhand Gorge in Licking County, which has trails in need of repair. These investments will bring improvements that Ohioans can enjoy long into the future. Now let me turn to Intel. In January, we announced that Intel had chosen Ohio to build the most advanced semiconductor manufacturing site in the entire world. This investment puts Ohio on the map for the entire technology industry. Ever since the announcement, Lieutenant Governor Houston and I have talked to many Ohioans who are so excited about the future, about their own or their children's job prospects, and about the many opportunities that Intel's arrival brings with it. Intel is investing $20 billion initially, creating 3,000 jobs and growing a vast supply chain that will benefit companies throughout the state of Ohio. This capital budget includes $600 million for an offshoring incentive grant, which is performance-based to help offset costs for the company, given that building a semiconductor manufacturing plant in the United States costs significantly more compared with factories built in Asian markets. And let me just add that this investment is an investment that benefits not only Ohio, but this nation. We need to build these here, and we are going to do that. To prepare for Intel in Ohio, the budget also includes $101 million for local water and wastewater capacity upgrades, $95 million for local roads, $110 million for state roads, and $300 million for a state-of-the-art water reclamation facility. These investments will not only ensure that this project is successful here, but also support the region by increasing local infrastructure capacity to support future growth. So let me say that again. Not only for Intel, but for future growth will this infrastructure benefit and help. Let me turn now to school security, which we talked about yesterday. The budget provides funding for a wide variety of projects and needs, including the needs of our schools. Yesterday, I held a news conference in which I talked in detail about the steps we're taking to improve security. A few of these steps rely on funding from this capital budget, which will help pay for equipment and upgrades that schools need to improve security. From the budget, this budget, $100 million will cover a new round of school safety grants for public, private, and parochial schools. Another $5 million will go towards our continuing investment in safety grants for our colleges and universities. This follows the previous budget, a $5 million investment for these colleges as well. The grants for our public, private, parochial, and K through 12 schools will be used to pay for baseline security in our school buildings, classrooms, parking lots, and elsewhere on school property. The grants will also cover security features such as visitor badging systems, faculty mapping, facility mapping, school radio systems, GPS tracking on student transport vehicles, exterior lights, notification systems, security training, and door locking systems, and more. Let me talk about school construction. Budget also provides $600 million for the construction and renovation of public school buildings as part of the Rebuilding Ohio Schools program administered by the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. Colleges and universities. For our 37 public colleges and universities, the capital budget includes $400 million. This is to be used for renovations to existing buildings, things such as new roofs, maintenance to heating and air conditioning systems, elevator updates. The budget also includes $60 million for projects at the state level that benefit higher education, such as funding for the ORNet broadband network and the Ohio Superconductor Center. Let me now turn to animal disease diagnostic lab. This is something that's been needed for some time. To protect public health, to assure animal health and welfare, and maintain food safety and security, this budget includes $72 million for the Ohio Department of Agriculture to build a new animal disease diagnostic laboratory. Ohio is proud to have a nationally recognized lab now, but the existing facilities are simply not adequate to keep up with the demand of the industry. The current lab supports a $6 billion industry that includes livestock, horses, companion and wild animals, zoos, and fisheries. It conducts more than 425,000 tests each year, averaging 1,628 tests a day and 203 tests an hour. With the project's growth, with the projected growth of livestock in the state of Ohio and the emergence of dangerous animal diseases such as bird flu, African swine fever, that burden is going to simply increase. A new lab is necessary to maintain adequate public health and disease surveillance. Currently, 70% of the tests that need to be done in the state of Ohio have to be sent out of state. That has to end, and it will end. Let me talk about our prisons. This has to do with physical safety and security. The budget allocates $403 million for projects for Ohio's jails, our local jails, as well as our state prison system. We have an obligation to provide safe, secure facilities that support rehabilitation and that also protect our employees. The budget includes, first, $50 million in grants to Ohio's jails to address the most pressing safety and security needs. This money is in addition to the $50 million in grant money awarded to 6 jails last year for construction and renovation projects. So we're coming back with an additional $50 million. This was something that our county officials wanted, and we felt that this was necessary to do and important to do. The budget also provides $20 million for the construction of a new school building for the Ohio Reformatory for Women, replacing 2 older buildings, including a 92-year-old structure. This new facility will provide access to improve educational opportunities, better preparing the women for success when they are released. It includes also $54 million to replace a 102-year-old housing units at the Pickaway Correctional Institution. The new modern housing units will enhance security and create more space as well. It includes also $35 million to complete the replacement of the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections' current man-down system, the communication system that notifies staff when there are employees in need of assistance. This, again, is for the protection of our employees. It also provides $222 million for ongoing projects to maintain prison infrastructure. Let me now turn to another project that is overdue. A grid reliable fire service is obviously vital to the health and safety of our communities. This capital budget includes more than $22 million in Division of State Fire Marshal improvement projects, including investments in modern training facilities for our firefighters. These include $12.8 million to build a new high-rise training structure that simulates firefighting in various environments, including houses, apartments, offices, and light industrial facilities. Also, the bill includes $6.1 million for a search and rescue training center that presents a variety of real-world environments for fire, for EMS, and law enforcement training. Community projects. Besides the investments I've outlined, this budget includes $191 million for community projects directed by the legislature. This is in direct funding for local and regional projects, large and small, that will have a lasting impact on communities throughout the state. These projects include things such as local trails, historical and cultural projects, construction and renovation of community centers, and new and updated recreational facilities. Let me turn to Public Works. It also includes, this budget includes $482 million for the Public Works Commission to support needed improvements to roads, bridges, and other infrastructure in every region of the state. Let me now ask the Lieutenant Governor for some comments, and then we will open it up for your questions. We have the experts behind me.
Thanks, Governor. I just want to emphasize a couple of points about why these investments are important. I want to start with the Intel infrastructure package. When we began talking with them, one of the big questions they pressed us on is whether we could deliver on time. And that would require the action from the state legislature. And we not only acted on time, we acted ahead of time so that the groundbreaking and the process of building this project can happen on time, can be completed on time, and we can begin manufacturing chips in America, the chips that are part of the essential supply chain that we are all struggling with the consequences of being behind in terms of American production. I will emphasize that Ohio delivered on time. We still need Congress to act on the CHIPS Act to make sure that we can deliver for the entire nation. But this is a very important action by the legislature to get this done so that Ohio can keep its promises and demonstrate to the world that we can handle what it takes to do the biggest economic development project in the free world. And it provides it not only provides infrastructure, but in some very interesting things with the water reclamation system and so forth, I think are really cutting edge technologies that are being deployed on the entire project. I also want to mention the money that's going into education. You can't create a job until you have somebody with the skills to take a job. And we continue to build the infrastructure that it's going to take for our K through 12, our colleges and universities to produce the talented workforce we need to fill the jobs we're creating. Right now in Ohio, workforce is essential. If you went to Ohio Means Jobs today, you would see that there are nearly 250,000 jobs available there. Nearly 150,000 of those jobs pay $50,000 a year or more, and we have 38,000 people on unemployment in our state. We have nearly 4 jobs on the Ohio Means Jobs website that pay $50,000 a year or more for every 1 person on unemployment. And so building talent at this time is essential for a thriving economy, and these investments are going to help with that. It's creating opportunity for people in our state like we haven't seen in a very, very long time. And there are many ways through these institutions that anyone in Ohio can earn the skills that they need to take one of these great jobs that we're creating. And I appreciate the governor's leadership and our whole team to work with the legislature to deliver on time for these important projects. Thank you.
Happy to take questions.